Welcome to Contractor Cuts, where we cover the good, the bad, and the ugly of growing a successful contracting company.
Welcome to Contractor Cuts. My name is Clark Turner.
I'm Jared Flo.
Thanks for joining us again. This episode is titled, Why 4% Markup Will Double Your Profits. To know that, and for us to even get there and dive deep enough to understand what that means and why we say that, you have to first understand your numbers.
Right.
We work with contractors all different sizes, from a one-man show doing $8,000 a month worth of revenue, all the way up to large companies doing hundreds of thousands of dollars a month in revenue, and everywhere in between. And
when we ask them the question, how much profit do you make?
Mm-hmm.
They say, well, I make about 25 to 30% profit.
Yeah, and the question is, you mark up your jobs that much, or do you have numbers over the past 12 months to show that?
That's right.
And every single time it's like, well, yeah, I mark them up about 30%. I try to get there. Sometimes 20%, but it depends on who I'm doing the job for, which that's great to know where you're trying to hit your numbers. That is terrible to be able to assess your company, assess your profits, and be able to move forward.
Right.
So in Alliance, what we do with a lot of contractors behind the scenes, we sit down and we show an org chart from a one-man show all the way up to doing, duplicating yourself. We have 16 different stages of an org chart that you can go through. And in those, we divide it up into 4 phases: phase 1, 2, 3, and 4.
And each one of those are kind of a step-by-step
Yep.
process of what do I need to do today to move to the next place, and
Yep.
the next place, and the next place. And
Exactly.
the only way that you can do that and start running that place is one of the very beginning places is you've got to know and understand your numbers.
Absolutely. Yeah. When you're coming in to sit with us and doing a blueprint with us, we will see you might be starting at a 2A or a 1C or different stages along growth. It doesn't matter where you're starting. We just need to know where you are at and where you're going to be going.
Yep.
And to know that, we have to look at your numbers. We have to look at QuickBooks. We have to look at whatever you've been working off of to understand where you're at, where you're losing money, where you're gaining money, what's your weakest part, what's your strongest part, and then we build a growth plan from there.
Right. And why is it that when we ask people how much profit they make and they say, well, I make 25 to 30% profit, why is that not accurate?
It's usually extremely inaccurate because they don't think about the overhead cost included in that. They're literally thinking about how much I mark up my labor and materials, and that's when everything goes perfectly, right? So I put 25% profit on my job. I get my materials paid. I get my labor paid, or I'm doing the labor myself, and whatever's left is mine. And that's kind of the concept of that's where it's gonna show at the end of the year. We'll just see what it is.
So what you're saying is that basically, just because I shot for or actually made 25, 26%, that doesn't necessarily mean that's the money that me as an owner I'm actually bringing home.
Correct.
Yeah.
And that's the confusing part, because we want to look at the actual profit of the company, not just how much you're marking your jobs up. Because that you can mark your jobs up 50%. If you're mismanaging the money, you're overpaying crews, and you're underbidding materials, you're walking away at $0 at the end of the year.
That's
and for us, growth means replacing yourself in the company, building a retirement, which most contractors don't have a retirement plan for them. So when you join ProServe Alliance, the goal of what we do is, how do we duplicate you, bring people in to work that job, grow you to the next level, you get duplicated at that level, and then you can start duplicating your company or set it up to run without you. Like we've done with our general contracting company, it's up and running, stepped out of it, now we're working on an alliance and helping other guys do it, right? And to be able to have that option is you have to have profits above and beyond the cost of operations.
And I think one of the things that I would say about that is that it's very easy to look at a job and say, I shot for 25, but I made 18% or 21% on a $150,000 job. That's a ton of cash.
Yep.
And it's a lot of contractors can get really confused by that and think that they're making money, but behind the scenes, vehicle cost, gas cost, employee cost, material cost, overages on a job eat up all of that stuff, and it looks like you're profitable, but you're not actually making any money after everything is paid. That's the real cash that you're bringing home. And we had a contracting company that we went into that was a more established, larger company, and they came to us saying that they were making all this money and making good profit. And once we really boiled it down, we had to go back to them and say, at the profit that you guys are making, it's better for you to cut that client a check and not do the work.
Yep.
Because you're making less money on this job than you're actually spending.
Exactly.
And so that's why it's really important to know how to break down your numbers and know, this is what my materials are, this is what my labor cost is, this is what my overhead costs are, and this is what the company is actually going to make, whether it's 4%, 6%, 12%, whatever it is, and then understanding that money can't just go straight into my pocket if I want to grow and develop. If I want to move to that, if I want to move through that 16-step process of growing from one place to the next, it requires time and money to do that. So knowing your numbers is one of the very first steps of being able to start your growth.
And so if you are a larger company or you've really got a handle on your numbers and profitability, overhead costs, great. Fast forward 30 seconds of this. If you're not, if you're one of the guys that I think almost every single person that we've worked with comes in with either being foggy or no clue, or I think I'm there, help me out.
Or saying they most of them come in and say, I'm decent at what I do. I just can't get out of the truck and move my company to the next level. I'm doing the work. I'm on site every day. I'm swinging hammers, and customers like me. I'm landing jobs. I think I'm profitable. I just can't move to the next level.
So let's break that down. So let's start with level 1, and then we'll fast forward to level 4. And a level 1 contractor for us is a guy that's still swinging the hammer, trying to run a couple crews, and so he's managing some guys, but also still getting his hands dirty. Doing anywhere from 120 up to 500, 6, 7, 800,000 a year in revenue. That's a level 1 in our book, and what that means is on a level 1, oftentimes they think that they're making more than they are because they're paying themselves the labor cost as well as the profit. On every job you've got material, labor, and profit. The labor, the materials, that's done. That's already spoken for. It is what it is.
That's right.
But the labor materials we find is around 21% of every job. Labor is around 46%, 47%, 48%, depending on how good you are at your numbers. And so you're taking that money and saying, oh, I'm making all this profit. But the problem is, if you can't hire someone to do that work and live off the profit as your pay, then you're not profitable. That money that you can live off of is how we grow you to the next level. And the hardest jump for every contractor that comes in as a level 1 to get to a level 2 is to be able to hire guys, manage them, and get 3, 4, 5 jobs going at the same time, to where a 25, 30% profit from each of these jobs will now kind of replace what I was making previously. Because I do one job, I've got 45% profit for the labor that I'm making, and then I'm making also another 25% profit. So now I'm at 70% of this job is going into my pocket.
That's right.
Where if I'm stepping and growing it out of
I've got to pay somebody else to do that.
I've got to pay someone that 45% that I was putting in my pocket. So now I've got to do 3 jobs to make the same amount of money I was doing one on my own. And that's the most difficult hurdle, I think, in all of our stages, all 16 stages to get over, I think, because that's one to where, the chicken or the egg, and so you're kind of doing one job and you've got 2 crews doing these other jobs. So first and foremost, for a level 1 to understand those numbers, you can't just say I made X amount of dollars on this job. Every job you have to identify, I'm making this much labor and I'm making this much profit. And now both are going into my pocket because I'm doing the labor. But you need to separate those. In our software, if you use our software, you itemize where your labor is, where your materials is, and then where your profit is. And so you can literally assign all of these job line items to myself, and I can say, okay, I'm doing this work and I'm getting paid $5,000 for the work, but I'm also making $2,000 profit. So it's $7,000 coming to me, but I know I can hire someone for this, and this is how much profit I'm making, and I'm going to protect this profit.
And the the reason for wanting to step out of that place, because there's a part of it like, if I'm making the labor money in my pocket and I'm making the profit, I'm making a ton of money. But there's the reality about that is that there is a low ceiling, and you will hit it. It is the amount of time that you're willing to sacrifice, and you only have a certain amount of time that you can sacrifice.
Yep.
And so there's a ceiling that you get to that you cannot and will not make any more money and grow any further.
And you're breaking your back.
And you're
when
breaking
you go
your
on
back,
vacation,
and
things fall apart.
You're not seeing your family, like all of that stuff. So to move to the next level, the first move, you may not make as much money, but your ceiling goes higher of the amount of revenue that you can do as a company at that point, which means that you can grow and then you can start making more money. And actually, it's the beginning of working less and making more money.
Yep. Now, it takes a lot to get there.
Yes.
You got to work more to be able to work less in the future. So that's level 1. And that's when we talk about that 4%, that's more once you get to level 3, level 4 of the 4% markup is going to double your profits. Level 1, your goal is just to know what your profit is and what your labor is. All right, so let's fast forward. We're not going to talk about level 2, 3. We'll dive deeper in a later podcast or at one of our seminars you can come to. We always go through this in high detail over a couple hours.
Right.
But fast forward to level 4. If you're a level 4 contractor, in our book, 4A, 4B, you're doing $3 million plus at least. But really the setup as a contractor at level 4 is you've got your labor, you get which are usually subcontractors. You've got your project managers, and you've brought someone in to replace you on top as boss, as a head of renovations or general manager,
whatever it is.
So that's the beginning of level 4, to where I am now officially not the guy running the jobs or their boss, right? And this is the spot where you can start really growth that happens outside of just this one spot, and you can really expedite your growth by starting a new location, starting a different city, a new arm of the company. Now we're going to get into service calls. Now we're going to do, and getting that spot is great. But we know industry-wide, the NARI, National Association of Remodeling Industry, states average GC makes 4% profit.
Which that model, the 4 model is kind of the standard model for an average contractor, the business model of where most.
If you're not swinging the hammer, you're managing a company. The average industry level is 4%.
Your and your overhead is around 21%.
Yep. So at that level, starting at level 4, your overhead should be at 21%. And like I said, in our 2-day seminar, we dive deep into this and give you all the notes on it. But stay with us. You're at 21% profit, overhead costs. And most guys average 25% profit at the end of the day of their jobs. That means the difference of 21 and 25 is 4. That's the average industry standard for profit. Now you're taking money. That's coming to you as the owner.
Right.
And so if you do the math and you're doing $3 million, that's $120,000 a year that you're making.
Right.
Which is great money, but fairly low for the amount of overhead risk that you've got running a $3 million a year company.
Right.
And so what our job as your coach, as a partner with you, is to get you from 25 to 29. We want 4% more, because the industry standard is 4% from 21 to 25. We want to make you 8 to 9% profit at the end of the day. That's our first goal.
Right.
If we can get you averaging at 29% profit, then on all of your jobs, you're going to be making 8%. If I can get you to 30, you're making 9%. If I can get your overhead down from 21 to 20, and there's ways that we do that, and that's kind of one-off assessments of your company of where you're wasting money. But if I can get your overhead from 21 to 19, 21 to 20, you're adding on percentages. Our goal is to go from the industry standard of 4 to get you to 8. And so when you look
at 20 at that percentage, doing $3 million, you go from $120,000 a year to $240,000 a year, which means that you can take a substantial paycheck and still have a ton of money to put back into the company for more growth.
And why we talk about this is when you're looking at your jobs, when you're looking at what job I'm going to bid, what job I'm going to go with and accept when a client wants us to do it, it doesn't feel like a big difference between 25 and 29. It's like it's 4%. Let's just get it done and go. The truth of it is we lose 2 to 3% all the time on jobs, from overpaying subs to stolen materials off our job site to all sorts of
or a screw up where we
miscommunications.
painted something the wrong color and we need to go back and
Yep.
repaint it.
And maybe we cover the materials because the guy that messed up the doing the work is going to cover the labor, but it still costs us money.
Right.
And so there's 2 to 3% of most jobs that you're going to lose. Hopefully you don't, but that we budget to be in there.
Right.
So we aim for 30 to 32% profit when we're bidding a job.
Knowing that it's going to drop from there.
Knowing we're going to hopefully hit 30 and at worst case 29.
Right.
And that still keeps us at a 9% profit as a company. And so the other side of that, though, is if you start at 25% as a bid, or you bid it at 22% or 23%, and you lose 3% from there, you're now actually made 20%. Your overhead cost was 21%. And so it's cheaper to pay that client money and not take that job than if you would have taken that job.
Which is rolling back to the very first thing that we said.
Exactly.
The importance of knowing your numbers.
Exactly.
If I know that my overhead's 21% and I don't want to be a nonprofit, so I don't want to hit 21%, I need to make at least industry standard, which is 4% above that. Then I need to price my jobs to accommodate what I need for my company, for everyone to get paid, and for the future growth of the company, which means that sometimes I'm going to look at a job and say, you know what, I just can't do this job, and I'm going to turn a job down. And the great thing is, in our current situation, every contractor that we talk to is telling me, I have more jobs than I can possibly get to right now. Which is, but the weird thing is on the flip side, they're afraid of not having enough jobs. So they're taking jobs that don't make sense. They're taking jobs that are breaking even, or that they're losing money on because they want to do right by the customer or whatever. And like, that's not a fair deal if you're doing right by the customer, but you're essentially paying them to do the job, or you're breaking even. The goal of this is to be able to price a job that's going to be a benefit for you and your company and a great deal for the client as well.
I remember diving into this probably 6, 7, 8 years ago. I did a bathroom renovation for my parents, and the question was, I don't want to make money off my parents like that. I want to break even on this. And break even, though, is not cost of materials, cost of labor, because I've got an office manager, I've got a project manager over the job, I've got rent, I've got lights, I've got insurance that if we burn their house down, I'm paying for it out of my insurance, right?
And it was it's your parents, so you can choose to pay them money to do their job for them. You can choose to do that, but you had to look at it and go, that doesn't make sense. That's not fair.
It's fair to charge them 20% over for the services that we're giving them, and I'm breaking even at that spot. And I'm also not, and also they're happy because they're not making me lose, right? And so when you start looking at it that way and start diving into the numbers, when you're helping your buddy out at 18% profit and it's just, or a cost plus at 15%, unless you're at $300,000, $400,000, you gotta be in the mid-20s. Now, when you get bigger, and this is a little bit more theory of, I'm doing a $300,000 job, I can't make 30% on that. And you don't need to, because the front end and the back end are a lot of work. The middle is keeping the balls in the air, and that's a whole different podcast series about the theory of how to price different size jobs. But on average, in a normal renovation, from $20,000 all the way up to $120,000, $140,000, maybe even a little above that, I've got to be in the mid to high 20s.
Minimum.
And
that's where you want to finish the job at. So you've got to price it knowing there's going to be a variable, there's going to be variances, or you're going to be the contractor that's constantly going back to your client and saying, I need to change order for this, and I need to change order for this, and I need to change order for this. When you're gonna frustrate your client by doing that.
Customer service is key. That's what we always preach. It's all about how the client experiences the renovation, and change orders kill their experience. And that's something huge that we really push into our contractors is you got to know your numbers, you got to capture everything on the estimate, and then we got to have a great experience for the client when we do it. So if you take one thing away from this, know your numbers, look into your numbers. If you don't know how to do that, hit us up. Let us know. We'd love to do a blueprint with you, kind of show you where you're at in your org chart and how you're going to grow over the next year. We do that for free for any contractor that reaches out and wants to. We've got a retreat January 17th and 18th. Harris Cherokee Casino in North Carolina.
About it. It's gonna be good.
Yep, we get a lot of contractors together from our system and from all the guys that we partner with.
Right.
Come out to it and we sit down and we go over and we take 2 days intensive deep dive into the 2022 year. When you leave there, you will know exactly what you have to do to be successful in 2022 for your company. So we love for you to come on that. We allow anyone to come on one of those for free. Check us out. We've got a scholarship program for contractors that have never been on one before, just to check it out. We feel like put our money where our mouth is. If you come and check it out and want to continue working with us, great. If you come and check it out and it's not for you, no problem. No problem at all. So love to have you guys out to that. But if you take something away from this as a whole, you got to know your numbers, know your overhead costs, and know your profit, and be able to try to get more than 4% profit at the end of the year.
Right.
We're aiming for 8, 9, 10%. That's a doubling the industry standard, and you will be growing nonstop if you can do that.
Yep.
So thanks so much for joining us. See you guys next week.
See you next time.
Bye.